Xia Yi, who became a 10-year fox in the Star Forest during the legend of the Dragon King, was forced to transform by the Plain Master and embarked on his legendary journey. Tang Wulin said, I have the Blue-Silver Emperor's martial soul and the Golden Dragon King's bloodline, both of which can give me powerful soul skills. Xia Yi. Powerful soul skill. Hehe, do you know the Insulated Claw of Wanji Kexing? Tang Wulin said, I have the supernatural artifact Trident, the divine artifact Golden Dragon Spear, the divine artifact. Xia Yi. Whether it's your artifact or a supernatural artifact, I forgot to tell you that the Insulated Claw can control any weapon. Tang Wulin said, I also have the spirit of a fierce beast, with a 4-character Dou Armor. Xia Yi. Soul, Dou Armor, have you ever heard of Wangyue Palm? Even the seal will forget what you are sealing. Tang San. Little fox, don't be reckless. When I return, I will find you to settle everything. Xia Yi. You don't need to come back, I'll go find you now. Xia Yi stepped out and appeared directly in front of the Great Divine Circle. But upon seeing the Great Divine Circle, he was completely shocked. Keywords of the novel. Legend of the Dragon King. I fought from Douluo continent to the Great Divine Circle without a pop-up window. Legend of the Dragon King. I fought from Douluo continent to the Great Divine Circle. Download the complete text. Legend of the Dragon King. I fought from Douluo continent to the Great Divine Circle. Read the latest chapter. Chapter 1. Xia Yi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Xia Yi. Do you know how a fox with only 10 years of cultivation captures a 100-year-old soft-bone rabbit in the Star Forest of Douluo continent? Firstly, block all the rabbit holes, leaving only one front and one back exit. Then, take some dried leaves and rub them against his 2 small claws at high speed. With his 10-year soul power, it won't be long before he can create a fire and directly stuff it into the front exit. Finally, just hold the wooden stick and wait at the back exit. In just 15 minutes, you can harvest a full nest of rabbits. This 10-year fox is called Xia Yi, and this is the name he gave himself. He doesn't know why he gave himself such a name. I don't even know what my name is, I just feel like I should be called that. Xia Yi was in a good mood today and specially knocked on 200-year-old soft-bone rabbits, while letting the rest go. After running to a small stream to clean his internal organs, Xia Yi lit up another fire and roasted the soft-bone rabbit until both sides turned golden before starting to devour it. If someone sees this scene and must be scared to death, when will the spiritual intelligence of the 10-year soul beast also be so high? Click. The sound of a broken branch came, and Xia Yi, who was originally enjoying her food, became alert and quickly pushed the fire into the stream in front of her. And after eliminating all his traces, he crawled into the nearby bushes and ran in the direction of the sound. Humans, a child can have up to 2 rings, and they can be used by hand. Xia Yi squatted on a towering ancient tree, his gaze becoming cold. At this moment, he didn't know that starting from today, his fate would undergo a earth-shattering change. Miss Guyu, are you going into the Star Forest? Dams, metal dams, huge metal dams. The height of the huge metal dam exceeds 300 meters. Looking up into the air along the metal dam, there is actually a nearly transparent light shield above it. The entire metal dam was like a huge cage, as if it were something terrifying like a cage. Outside the cage, there are also several dozen-meter-high, deep black mechas patrolling non-stop 24 hours a day. Each mech exudes a sense of awe, exuding a powerful aura that makes people feel intimidated. The girl they called Guyu didn't pay attention to them, just looked up silently at the endless metal cage in front of her. Xiu Quan couldn't help but clench her hands tightly. Because of the excessive force, both fair and moist hands turned pale due to poor blood circulation. Guyu looks around 10 years old, not particularly beautiful, can only be said to be delicate, with long black hair and black eyes. Her figure is considered above average among her peers, very symmetrical. A pair of big, bright eyes. Miss Guyu, are you going into the Star Forest? The black mech slowly landed in front of Guyu, not angry because Guyu ignored them. Instead, it bowed respectfully. Although their strength is far superior to the current Guyu's position in the transmission tower is beyond their reach. Offended Guyu, they couldn't eat and walked around. Guyu nodded but remained silent, only handing over a card symbolizing her identity. The mecha took Guyu's identity card and lightly swiped it on the instrument inside the mecha. An electronic sound suddenly rang out. Guyu, your identity is confirmed and you can pass. As metal gates opened one by one, Guyu slowly entered this huge cage. Surprisingly, within such a large cage, there is a vibrant primitive forest, with towering ancient trees soaring into the sky and insects chirping and birds chirping everywhere. The unique fragrance of nature in the air is even more intoxicating. That's right, this is the Star Forest, which has existed since the incarnation of the Mountain Dragon King into the continent and has been passed down for over 1,000,000 years. After entering the Star Forest, Guyu's clenched fist slowly loosened and began greedily absorbing the natural breath in the forest. After half a sound, she set off again and slowly walked towards the depths of the forest. After entering the Star Forest, Guyu felt like returning home, completely letting go of all her guard. She didn't care even if she stepped on a branch and broke it. Guyu didn't know yet, but because of the branch she accidentally stepped on, it almost killed her. Just like Xia Yi didn't know that her fate would undergo earth-shattering changes from today on, Guyu didn't know that today could be her nightmare. Ji. A slightly painful voice came, and Guyu instinctively turned her head to look. Not far from her, a white fox the size of a house cat was suspended in mid-air. Guyu fixed her gaze and only then discovered that the feet of the white fox were entangled by vines, with the other end of the vines hanging on a branch over 10 meters high. As the white fox struggled, the vines seemed to become tighter and tighter. 10 years of little fox, poor little one. Alas, who called me your master? Guyu shook her head helplessly in her heart, and a wind blade flew out of her hand, quickly cutting off the vines. She herself lightly rested her feet on the ground, jumping up like an elf, quickly reaching below the vine and accurately catching the falling white fox. It was not until then that Guyu realized that this fox was exceptionally beautiful, with a pure white fur that exuded spiritual energy, full of holiness and nobility. At this moment, his pair of snowy phoenix eyes were gazing affectionately at Guyu. With a slight smile, Guyu felt a sense of self-shame and shame, truly captivating the city with one smile and then captivating the country with another. The only flaw is that he is bald behind him and has no tail. Guyu also noticed this and hugged him for a while before asking, "Little guy, did you get bitten off by another soul beast?" "Forget it, I won't see Wulin for a month during the holiday, so I'll keep you by my side to relax." Thinking of Tang Wulin, Guyu suddenly showed a sweet smile. However, in the moment when Guyu was distracted, the white fox suddenly erupted and kicked its hind legs hard on her chest. Its claws popped out and it fiercely grabbed her throat. That's right, this white fox is Xia Yi. He waited for a long time, just waiting for the chance to kill with this one strike. He once used this move to instantly kill a human soul master with 3 rings. But today, he kicked onto the iron plate, and Guyu's reaction was extremely fast, far surpassing other third-ring soul masters. Her soul power exploded, and although she didn't have time to use her soul skills, with her cultivation as the second-ring soul master, she could definitely shake Xia Yi out of her arms. After all, Xia Yi is just a small soul beast for 10 years, and without strong bloodline support, he can be said to be pitifully weak. Little soul beasts like Xia Yi are no match for her. But this time, like Xia Yi, she encountered tough challenges. Xia Yi's combat skills were quite skilled. At the moment when Guyu's soul power erupted, he had already grabbed Guyu's clothes and flipped over onto her back. Ah! Guyu let out a high decibel scream as she felt a burning pain in her neck and blood gushing uncontrollably. Although she reacted extremely quickly and didn't let Xia Yi scratch her throat, Xia Yi's claws actually grabbed her neck. The most despicable thing is that just now Xia Yi's hind paw used force to push against her chest. Although it was separated from her clothes, it still left 2 fox paw marks on her chest, and the pain was no less than on her neck. If you make the following mistakes, you deserve to die. Guyu was furious. This Xia Yi was so despicable. Isn't there any sense of propriety in where to touch and where not to touch? She completely forgot that Xia Yi was just a little fox with 10 years of cultivation. Growing up in the Star Forest, how could she possibly know these things? For him, as long as he can kill the human Guyu, any method can be used. New book release, seeking collection, seeking recommendation tickets, seeking monthly tickets book friend group. 7559722926, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. The Arrival of Fierce Beasts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The Arrival of Fierce Beasts. Guyu was furious, thinking that her grand soul beast co-leader was actually injured by a 10-year-old soul beast. If Emperor Tian and his companions knew about it, what face would she have to govern them in the future? As the co-owner of soul beasts, Guyu is undoubtedly the most advanced in both combat awareness and skills. One reason why Xia Yi was able to harm her just now is that she wanted Tang Wulin to separate her spirits, and another reason is that she was not prepared for Xia Yi before. This time she was prepared. As the first soul ring lit up, her hands were immediately covered with fire elements, and her backhand grabbed Xia Yi, who was still lying on her back. This human is so terrifying, it's only 2 rings, more than twice as strong as the 3-ring human a year ago. Xia Yi was shocked in his heart. Guyu was able to dodge his fatal blow without any defense, which he never expected. He was very aware of his own weight and weight. At the moment when Guyu's first soul ring lit up, he had already jumped up from Guyu's back, jumped into the nearby bushes, escaped, and let Guyu's palm fall. I want to leave now, it's too late. Let's see if I don't peel off your skin to make a scarf. Guyu rubbed her silver teeth, and the wind blew under her feet. Her speed was several levels faster than Xia Yi, and she caught up with Xia Yi in an instant. Fireballs condensed with fire elements shot out from her palm, and under her exquisite control, no matter how Xia Yi dodged, the fireballs seemed to be positioned, always following behind Xia Yi. Human beings are indeed terrifying. The 2 rings are just so powerful. This time they hit an iron plate. Xia Yi cursed inwardly. He could see that this woman was playing tricks on him. If she really killed someone, the fireball would probably fall on him. Before Guyu could fully exert herself, Xia Yi accelerated and grabbed a vine before swinging it out. Are you a monkey? Guyu was stunned for a moment, but she quickly smiled and said, I'll play with you. Huiqiu was still chasing Xia Yi, but Guyu herself followed Xia Yi's example and grabbed a vine to swing out. Not only was she extremely fast, but her body seemed even lighter than Xia Yi's. Like an elf drifting in the air, it quickly caught up with Xia Yi again. But soon, Guyu tasted the consequences of learning from Xia Yi. Just as she was changing vines with her hands in the air, a large wooden stake that was thicker than one person suddenly appeared in front of her, and it collided with her head. On. I've been tricked. Guyu exclaimed. The timing of this wooden stake's appearance was too good. It was the moment when her front hand was ready to grab the vine in front of her and her back hand was ready to release the vine behind her. Both hands were in a state of exerting and retracting force, making it difficult to free up their hands to resist the flying wooden stake. Helpless, Guyu could only release her hands and let herself fall from the air, while her body fell backwards and made a lying down motion in the air, which was enough to avoid the oncoming wooden stake. Looking at the huge wooden stake roaring past her head, Guyu breathed a sigh of relief. If it had hit her face, the disfigurement would have been mild. This doesn't work. Xia Yi was also stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that Guyu could still avoid his trap in the air without any leverage. Struggling. Xia Yi was very decisive, grabbing the vine and swinging it backwards, leaping down towards Guyu lying flat. His two front paws immediately hugged Guyu's right ankle lying flat in the air. Ah! Guyu let out a scream again, as Xia Yi's sharp claws pierced the skin above her ankles and embedded it into her flesh and blood. Actually, it's not Xia Yi's fault this time. His paws are too small, otherwise he wouldn't be able to hold on to Guyu's feet. The intense pain made Guyu lose consciousness again, just in the moment she lost consciousness. Xia Yi had already picked up her right foot and started spinning around. After accelerating in a circle, she didn't know how to show any mercy and smashed her head fiercely towards a big tree next to her. With a loud collision, the big tree was suddenly shaken violently, and the leaves fell down with a swoosh. This power is not inferior to Tang Wulin. Guyu was suddenly knocked unconscious, and the only thing she could feel was the tremendous power emanating from Xia Yi's claws. It's not that Guyu is making a big fuss, but that Xia Yi's power is really terrifying, no less than Tang Wulin's concept. Guyu is very clear about it. Tang Wulin has pure blood from the Golden Dragon King. Moreover, Tang Wulin's cultivation level is much higher than Xia Yi's. That is to say, if his cultivation is the same, Xia Yi's power can completely crush Tang Wulin, who has the bloodline of the Golden Dragon King. As the Silver Dragon King, Guyu couldn't believe that any soul beast would surpass the Golden Dragon King even if she killed him. But the power coming from under her feet made her have to believe it. Bang! 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 A series of blows sounded like rain hitting banana trees. It turned out that Xia Yi had a successful strike and was not spared. Taking advantage of Guyu's confusion, he picked up her ankle and swung her up again. He arched her left and right, smashing her fiercely on the ground. This is a face that would be so shocked and speechless if someone saw it. A white fox, about the same size as a domestic cat, surprisingly smashed a human on the ground, causing the dust on the ground to shake. It's hard to imagine how terrifying the power was hidden within his small body. He was so strong that swinging a person was as simple as swinging a scarecrow. Xia Yi's strength is indeed terrifying, but Guyu's spiritual power is also terrifying. Even Xia Yi's power that surpasses the Golden Dragon King hit her more than 20 times before she fainted and the ground was smashed into a big hole. At this time, Guyu had already suffered from a head injury and blood flow, and there was not a complete piece of skin on her head. However, Xia Yi still did not have any softness in his hands. After putting her down, he jumped onto her chest and bit her neck with his mouth open. Oh! It smells so good. As the blood entered, Xia Yi realized that Guyu's blood not only had no ordinary blood smell, but also carried a strong and fragrant aroma, which was extremely delicious. Beyond any delicacy he has tasted in 10 years. I don't know how much better it tastes compared to roasted soft-bone rabbits. Xia Yi instantly sank into it and began to greedily suck on it. I even forgot to take the opportunity to bite off Guyu's throat. Dare to harm the master, seek death. Just as Xia Yi was greedily sucking, a huge voice exploded like thunder in the sky, just a sound that instantly darkened the originally clear sky. Xia Yi, who was lying on Guyu's chest greedily sucking, was knocked unconscious by the loud sound without even responding. Terrifying figures descended from the sky one after another, and as they looked at Xia Yi, who was still lying on Guyu's chest, their eyes were filled with murderous intent. If Xia Yi was still awake, he would definitely be very shocked, because the people in front of him were the ferocious beasts that an old turtle used his spiritual power to depict the core of the star forest a year ago. For most soul beasts, they only exist in legends. Legend has it that they are the guardians of the starry forest, all with cultivation spanning over 100,000 years. Each of them has the powerful power of turning their hands into clouds and covering their hands into rain. At this moment, all these ferocious beasts were angry, and they immediately came out to welcome the ancient moon after sensing its aura from the core of the star system. But in such an instant, they were all bullied by a 10-year soul beast. If they came a little later, their master would probably have died in the hands of Xia Yi, this 10-year soul beast. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Evolution. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Evolution. After seeing the tragic situation of Guyu, a group of ferocious beasts suddenly became angry from their hearts. It is unforgivable that a little soul beast of 10 years dared to harm their master like this. Xiong Jun raised his hand and grabbed Xia Yi, just a little fox for 10 years, how dare you harm the master? Die for me. Stop it, let's first understand what's going on. Fortunately, Emperor Tian, who was in charge, remained calm and raised his hand to block Xiong Jun's grip on Xia Yi. No matter what's going on, it's just a 10-year soul beast. Anyone who dares to harm the Lord will die. Xiong Jun glared at Emperor Tian angrily, not understanding why Emperor Tian was protecting a 10-year soul beast. You know he's just a soul beast for 10 years, Emperor Tian gave Xiong Jun a faint glance. Yeah, 10 years, how could it be? Xiong Junmeng reacted and realized something was wrong. Oh my goodness, their master was so badly beaten by a 10-year soul beast. If they hadn't appeared in time, they might have fallen by now. Actually, it's not worth it. Ziji, with her purple hair and purple skirt, let out a bitter smile, reached out and flicked her finger. A dark purple light flew out of her fingertips and shot towards a nearby big tree. Shio shio. A series of piercing sounds sounded, and more than 10 sharp wooden arrows shot towards them. With a wave of her hand, Ziji couldn't see clearly how she was doing it. After all, it was only a moment, and these wooden arrows shot from multiple angles had already fallen into her hands. Look, this is something that soul beasts can do in 10 years. Ziji handed these wooden arrows to several fierce beasts and turned her head to look at Xia Yi, who was still lying on Guyu's chest. At this moment, her beautiful eyes were no longer murderous, but shocked. I guess the master didn't expect to be hit just now. Biji also gave a bitter smile and picked Xia Yi up from Guyu. Behind her, the jade swan's wings gently flapped, and beams of life-filled light scattered down, tightly enveloping Guyu. In just an instant, the wounds on Guyu's body healed at a visible speed to the naked eye. After a moment, all the wounds had completely healed, leaving no marks. I'm still alive. Guyu sat up in an instant and instinctively touched her neck. Fortunately, the wound on her neck had completely healed. Although she was in a coma just now, her strong mental strength still made her vaguely remember Xia Yi biting her neck. What's going on? Was it just a dream? Guyu was clearly a bit confused, and even now she still doesn't believe that she almost died at the hands of the 10-year soul beast. Lord! Emperor Tian saw Guyu sober up and quickly bowed and saluted. Emperor Tian. Ah! Guyu was about to ask Emperor Tian not to be too polite, but when she looked up, she saw Xia Yi in Biji's arms and was instantly startled. After a while, she finally realized and looked at the fierce beasts around her, blushing and asking, "You just saved me." At this moment, Guyu wished she could find a crack in the ground and crawl in. As the co-owner of the soul beast, she almost died in the hands of a small 10-year soul beast. I was also seen by my subordinates, which makes it difficult for me to control them in the future. Seeing Guyu's expression, Xiong Jun quickly spoke up and comforted, "Lord, it's not your fault. It's this little soul fox who is too smart. Lord, please take a look." While speaking, Xiong Jun bent his fingers and flicked at a nearby tree, following the example of Ziji. Amidst a loud clatter, a huge vine net fell from the treetop. As ferocious beasts, their spiritual strength is terrifyingly strong, and the traps that Xia Yi worked hard to set up are nothing in their eyes. Guyu's pretty face turned even redder. Xiong Jun praised Xia Yi for her intelligence. Didn't he say she was foolish? Don't say anything if you don't know how to speak. Biji glared at Xiong Jun and bowed to Guyu, saying in a deep voice, Lord, this little fox probably attacked you as a human. Please don't apologize. Forget it. Let him go. Guyu took a deep breath, although in her heart she wished to cut Xia Yi 1,000 pieces. But in front of so many ferocious beasts, if I really argue too much with a small soul beast, it will actually make these ferocious beasts think that I have no ambition. Moreover, the emergence of Xia Yi has a milestone significance for soul beasts. If every soul beast is as shrewd as Xia Yi, why worry if the soul beasts are not powerful? As the co-owner of soul beasts, she must also protect such soul beasts. Biji nodded and did not wake Xia Yi up. She just placed him in the nearby bushes. Let's go back, Xiong Jun and Biji, stay behind. Xiong Jun is responsible for restoring the traps you destroyed. Don't let this little fox discover that you have come. Biji, stay behind and observe this little fox secretly to see if you can find out his secret. Guyu spoke in a deep voice, wondering why Xia Yi, despite only having 10 years of cultivation, is even more cunning than humans. First, he used a fox trick on her, then suddenly challenged her while she was distracted, and finally led her step by step into a trap. Whether it's the timing of the battle or the combat skills, they are no weaker than any human she has seen in this transformation. This made Guyu eager to know what was going on with Xia Yi. Ziji, Wanyao Wang, and Qi Wang, go and take a good look in other parts of the Star Forest to see if there are any soul beasts like this in other parts of the Star Forest. Guyu spoke again, although the possibility of knowing Ming Dao was very slim, she still wanted to give it a try. Yes, Lord. The major ferocious beasts were ordered to leave, leaving only Emperor Tian with the ancient moon to return to the Lake of Life. Half a day later, the Demon King, Purple Concubine, and Red King all returned in vain, and there was only one Xia Yi in the Star Forest. At this moment, Xia Yi also felt uncomfortable, with painful moans coming from his mouth. At this moment, Biji, who was observing in secret, realized that Xia Yi's pure white hair had completely turned into a translucent silver color, with crystal clear roots and full of texture. Biji's beautiful eyes flickered, and from her cultivation, it was clear that this was just a superficial appearance. In fact, Xia Yi's hair color has not changed, it is still white, but there are constantly silver rays overflowing from the pores under his hair, reflecting all of his hair into silver. Not only that, Xia Yi's mouth, nose, ears, and even eyes were constantly shining with silver glow. This is the Lord's blood, which this little fox cannot absorb at all. The divine nature in the blood is rebounding now, and if it continues like this, he will have to explode and die. Biji immediately understood what was going on. It seems that the Lord asked me to stay to save your life. Biji couldn't help but admire Guyu even more. She pointed Xia Yi's eyebrows and wanted to help him guide out the swallowed blood of Guyu. However, at this moment, a faint blue light suddenly flashed over Xia Yi, who was in a coma. In the next moment, Xia Yi's pores all over her body suddenly closed, even her mouth and eyes tightly closed, and even her ears and nose were sealed from the inside. You want to refine the blood of the Lord, you are seeking your own destruction. Do you know how terrifying the power lies in the Lord's blood? Even we cannot refine it, let alone you. Biji shouted loudly, and she made a series of moves, with lifelike emerald green lights shining on Xia Yi, trying to help him push Guyu's blood out of the body. But Xia Yi sealed her body from the inside, cutting off all connections between her body and the outside, making all her efforts futile. Biji furrowed her brows. If she forcibly broke the seal, it would actually harm Xia Yi. So he sat down next to Xia Yi and said, I want to see what's extraordinary about you. If Xia Yi really can't hold on, she is afraid that she will be seriously injured as a result, and she will forcibly guide Guyu's blood out of Xia Yi's body. Xia Yi's moans grew louder and louder, and BG could even hear the roar of the silver dragon bloodline in his body, as well as the loud sound of the silver dragon bloodline rushing towards his body. Xia Yi sealed his body from the inside. No matter how hard the silver dragon's bloodline struggled, it could not escape from his body, and even the silver glow could not overflow. Suddenly, a mournful cry, suspected to be from before the death of the dragon, came from Xia Yi's body. BG was shocked and couldn't feel the silver dragon's bloodline in Xia Yi's body. BG didn't believe in evil and once again held Xia Yi in her arms, gently placing her hand on her body. However, no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't feel any trace of the silver dragon bloodline on Xia Yi's body. Has it really been completely refined? BG frowned again, suddenly realizing that something seemed to be pressing against Xia Yi's body. BG curiously lifted Xia Yi into the air and noticed that a pure white tail was slowly growing out behind Xia Yi, who was originally bald. Evolved, you really refined the blood of the master. BG swallowed her saliva, and now she finally believes that Xia Yi has completely refined the blood of Guyu. If it weren't for this reason, she couldn't figure out why Xia Yi suddenly evolved. But she still couldn't figure out how Xia Yi's cultivation was refining the blood of Guyu. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The Suppression of the Plain Master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Chapter 5. Forced Transformation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Forced Transformation. I don't know. Guyu shook her head and said, I don't know which aspect of the plane is mainly suppressing him. I will only know when the suppression is over. At this moment, the huge figure of Emperor Tian began to slowly shrink and once again transformed into a human form, falling behind Guyu. Master, I'm sorry, I can't save him. Emperor Tianlong's eyes were full of unwillingness, but the difference in strength was too great, and he had no way to take the Lord of the Plain. Don't blame yourself, I know you've done your best. After calming Emperor Tian, Guyu suddenly looked up coldly at the celestial beam that was suppressing Xia Yi. Her eyes turned purple in an instant, and her killing intent instantly filled the entire star forest. When I recover, I will slay you to avenge today. Looking at Guyu's cold gaze, several fierce beasts were momentarily stunned, but then they all became excited. The Lord of the Plain is indeed powerful enough to make even the Emperor helpless, but Guyu is not weak either. If Guyu were to restore her peak, it would be completely no problem to slay a Lord of the Plain. Just as all the ferocious beasts were fantasizing about how Guyu could instantly kill the Lord of the Plain, BG suddenly pointed at Xia Yi and screamed, Master, look, he has taken shape. Guyu looked up and saw Xia Yi's body, which was suppressed by the towering beam of light, begin to transform into a human shape at a speed visible to the naked eye. Forced transformation, what is the Master of the Plain really going to do? Emperor Tian's voice was low, with a murderous intent. He had never had much fondness for the transformation of soul beasts and was also the most opposed to their transformation. In his memory, there is no one who remembers his identity after transforming into a soul beast. 10,000 years ago, even the Emperor's lucky beast, the three-eyed golden lion, which they worked hard to cultivate, betrayed the star forest after transforming. Even the Master of the Plain who suppresses soul beasts everywhere now, his wife, is a transformed soul beast. Once Xia Yi transforms, the Emperor is naively afraid that he will not be able to resist the temptation of the human world and embark on the old path of other transformed soul beasts. I'm afraid this is the real suppression, Guyu said in a deep voice, and she instantly understood the plan of the Plain Master. After all, Xia Yi is just a 10-year soul beast. Even if he is extraordinary, his knowledge is very limited. Once he enters the human world, he will definitely be attracted to it. At that time, Xia Yi will no longer be the star forest soul beast Xia Yi, but a human Xia Yi. The Lord of the Plain is very confident in the attraction of the human world to transformed soul beasts. In his memory, there is no soul beast that can resist the temptation of the human world after being transformed. Even the soul beast co-owner in front of her cannot resist the temptation of the human world. Her other half has been completely assimilated by humans, and this half is also being unconsciously assimilated. You should know that the soul beast co-owner has seen the world before. Even she cannot resist the temptation of the human world. How can Xia Yi, a soul beast who has not seen the world for 10 years, withstand it? The current master of the plane doesn't know yet. In no time, Xia Yi will make him understand how foolish it is to force Xia Yi to transform. With the disappearance of the pillar of light, Xia Yi finally stood up from the ground, looked at his body, and then scratched his head in confusion. Did you hear our conversation just now? Douluo glanced and had to say that the fox's bloodline really had this innate advantage in appearance. After transformation, Xia Yi's head was covered in black hair, shining brightly, and her face was so handsome that it was almost unreal. At first glance, she looked a bit more beautiful than the purple G and blue G in front of her. What puzzled Douluo was that she felt a thick and solid aura on Xia Yi. Douluo frowned again. In theory, this heavy aura should not have appeared on a child. After transforming, Xia Yi appeared to be about the same age as her, which means that the Lord of Plains did not transform Xia Yi to the age of 6, but directly transformed her to be between 9 and 10 years old. He could feel that Xia Yi's current soul power, like that of an ordinary transformed soul beast, is at level 10 innate full soul power. However, compared to other transformed soul beasts, Xia Yi had 3 to 4 fewer years of cultivation time. And it takes 3 to 4 years to lay the foundation. It is also the most important 3 to 4 years of soul master cultivation. I heard it. Xia Yi nodded. His head was a bit big, and he wouldn't have thought that this human girl who almost died in his own hands would be the master of several fierce beasts. For the sake of not knowing my identity before, I won't argue with you about offending me. Let's not do it again, let's go back to the core of the Star Dou forest. Douluo said in a deep voice. Since Xia Yi has already transformed, it's not appropriate to continue staying here. Speaking of the core of the Star Forest, Douluo and several fierce beasts became unnatural in their gaze. If it had been 10,000 years ago, this was also the core of the Star Forest. With the rise of the transmission tower, the area of the Star Forest has sharply shrunk, and the former core of the Star Forest has now become the outskirts of the Star Forest. Douluo didn't say much. After speaking, she turned around and left. Xia Yi knew that she looked like a human now. If she stayed here, she would have to be torn into pieces by soul beasts and could only follow her. Ah! BG sighed helplessly as she looked at Xia Yi, who was completely naked. She could see that Douluo was still holding a grudge against Xia Yi and deliberately making him look embarrassed. Since it has turned into a human body, it's better to wear some clothes. BG patted Xia Yi's shoulder, and her pure soul power condensed into a solid entity, forming a green and powerful outfit on Xia Yi's body. It's a bit monotonous. Ziji covered her mouth and smiled, patting Xia Yi's other shoulder. In an instant, his strong suit split in half from the middle, and the side close to Ziji turned into a purple skirt. Although Xia Yi didn't know what they were doing, he could feel that the two female ferocious beasts were completely making fun of him as he watched them all suppress their smiles. But he had no choice but to follow a few ferocious beasts to the core of the Star Forest in such an incognito manner. Until he arrived at the side of the Lake of Life, Emperor Tian felt his eyes burning, so he changed into a black robe. You have a month to learn about the history of soul beasts, as well as familiarize yourself with your current body and martial soul. After a month, you will leave the Star Forest with me and I will take you to the human world for cultivation. Douluo said, in the Douluo continent, in the early stage of transforming soul beasts, you must absorb popularity to cultivate, that is, you must integrate into the human world to cultivate. In order to ensure that Xia Yi does not forget his identity as a soul beast after entering the human world, several fierce beasts began to tell him about the history of soul beasts and how humans slaughtered and imprisoned them in the next month. Ziji also told her about Douluo's identity. As a member of the Dragon Clan, when Xiji mentioned Guyu, her eyes were filled with pride. The Lord once brought many divine beasts to the divine realm and fought against the 5 great divine kings. Whether it was knowledge or knowledge, it was not something we could look up to. Therefore, when you enter the human world, you only need to follow the Lord's arrangement. Although you have lost the most precious years of cultivation time, with the Lord present, she will definitely lead you to the pinnacle of this continent. Xiji praised Guyu so extravagantly that Xia Yi felt drowsy and murmured softly, "But she can't even beat me." "You're okay, if it weren't for the Lord's lack of defense, you think you could hurt him?" Xiji glared at him fiercely, but didn't get angry. Xia Yi was just a soul beast for 10 years, and he had never heard of Guyu before. Now, it's a bit difficult for him to suddenly accept it. Never mind, when you follow the master for a while, you will discover his greatness. Xiji shook her head and continued, "Next is your familiarity with your body and soul skills. According to the master's requirements, I and Emperor Tian will help you. Can we replace someone?" Xia Yi's mouth twitched a few times. Guyu's intention was obvious. Xiji and Emperor Tian are both of the Dragon Clan and are most loyal to Guyu. Previously, Xia Yi almost killed Guyu. If it were to be said that they wouldn't take the opportunity to speak out, Xia Yi wouldn't believe it even if he killed her. This is the Lord's command, it cannot be changed. Hurry up and take action. Don't worry, with Sister Biji around, you won't die. Xiji smiled at Xia Yi, her stunning smile even more terrifying than a demon in his eyes. Xia Yi's eyes twitched wildly. What does it mean that he can't die? Do you really want to beat yourself to half-death and then let Biji save her and continue fighting? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Leaving the Starry Forest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Leaving the Starry Forest. Guyu seemed very busy, taking Xia Yi to the core of the Star Forest. For a whole month, she didn't appear again. Just let Emperor Tian and Xiji train Xia Yi. With Biji by his side, even if he's injured, he can instantly recover. This has left Xia Yi in a state of deep water and intense heat for a whole month. In just 1 month, Xia Yi's growth was undoubtedly tremendous, which shocked Emperor Tian and Purple Ji. Xia Yi's learning ability was too strong, and no matter what, he could almost always teach. What shocked Xia Yi was that he found signs of his soul power breaking level 11. Xia Yi was not in a hurry to break through. According to Emperor Tian, the transformed soul beasts had to enter the human world to cultivate, but he didn't seem to need it. Xia Yi never fully believed in Guyu and these ferocious beasts from beginning to end, and he didn't want Guyu to know too many of his secrets. The experience of climbing and fighting in the Star Forest for 10 years tells Xia Yi that at any time, the heart of defense is indispensable. A month later, Guyu reappeared and first found Emperor Tian and Purple Concubine. What do you think of Xia Yi? Guyu looked at Xiji and Emperor Tian, and asked them to train Xia Yi. In fact, she wanted Xiji and Emperor Tian to understand Xia Yi's situation. Let's see if Xia Yi has any secrets intentionally kept from them. I have a strong ability to learn, no matter what, I can almost learn it at once, and often I can draw inferences from other situations. Moreover, I hold a defensive mentality towards us, which makes us almost useless. Xiji said helplessly. Xia Yi is too skilled to give them the opportunity to explore secrets. I understand. If you absolutely trust us right after getting to know each other, it would actually disappoint me, Guyu said with a smile, and then asked, how is your talent? The combat talent is very strong, with a high level of combat consciousness, but the martial soul is too weak. Emperor Tian also spoke up. Generally speaking, ordinary fox martial souls, apart from mutations, have more tails and higher levels of martial soul. Even the 9-tailed fox is just a good martial soul, which is 108,000 miles behind the top martial soul. And Xia Yi is just an ordinary tail, evolved by drinking the blood of Guyu, without any mutated martial soul characteristics. This kind of martial soul cannot be said to be too weak, it can only be said to be pitifully weak. His martial soul and essence are indeed the lowest level. If the other 10-year soul beasts had eaten the flesh and blood of 100-year soul beasts, their cultivation would have skyrocketed. But this Xia Yi, who had eaten countless 100-year soft bone rabbits, did not have any growth in cultivation. Ziji said in a deep voice. In her memory, only the lowest level soul beasts would have done this. Even if you eat heavenly and earthly treasures, you cannot increase your cultivation. You can only gradually increase your cultivation through the accumulation of time. That's it. Guyu nodded, and after a moment of contemplation, she asked in a deep voice, do you think it's worth cultivating him? He missed the most precious years of cultivation, and his martial soul was too weak. Even if he had enough natural resources and earth treasures to improve his physique, he could only cultivate to the Soul Emperor realm at most, and it was difficult to break through the Soul Saint. Emperor Tian said in a deep voice. Isn't it worth saying that? Guyu raised her eyebrows. If it were just the Soul Emperor, it wouldn't have helped them with what they had to do. No, I think it can be cultivated, but there's no need to waste too many resources. Emperor Tian shook his head. Oh, what do you say? Guyu became interested. He has a good brain, and if we make use of it, it may be helpful to us, Emperor Tian spoke in a deep voice. Although his cultivation has been close to 900,000 years, after many years of dealing with humans, he has to admit that he is not a match for humans in terms of conspiracy and trickery. On Xia Yi, he saw hope. The more he understood Xia Yi, the more he felt that Xia Yi was terrifyingly shrewd. Good brain. Guyu nodded again. She had been puzzled by Xia Yi's calculations before and refused to admit that Xia Yi was smarter than her even if she died. In her opinion, the reason why Xia Yi was able to calculate on her was mainly because she was not prepared for Xia Yi, which allowed him to succeed by chance. But she didn't expect Emperor Tian to give Xia Yi such an evaluation. Since that's the case, let Ziji send him out of the Star Forest and directly to Donghai City. I need to go to the Spirit Transmission Tower, and after I arrive in Donghai City, I will go find the dance teacher to see if I can persuade him to join Class 0. Guyu looked up at the sky, and now the Star Forest is a huge prison. Even she needs to join the Spirit Transmission Tower to have the right to freely enter and exit the Star Forest. As for Xia Yi, if he wants to leave the Star Forest, he can only let the ferocious beast take action and use the power of space to teleport in order to leave. Yes. Ziji nodded and took orders to leave. I hope nothing goes wrong. Guyu took a deep breath. To be honest, she didn't have much hope of letting Xia Yi join the 0 class. Xia Yi's cultivation level is too low, and his martial soul is also not good. Based on her understanding of Wu Changkong, he would never agree. Xia Yi didn't know what Guyu was thinking, nor did she know why it was Ziji who sent him away. She could only follow Ziji to the metal dam on the edge of the Star Forest. Seemingly aware of Xia Yi's confusion, Ziji smiled and took the initiative to explain, Emperor Tian and Sister Biji should protect the Lord to prevent you from harming him again. There are also people who need to protect you, the Demon King and the Red King. As for Xiong Jun, he is too impulsive and not suitable to go to the human world and stay to protect the Star Forest, so I can only escort you out of the Star Forest. Emperor Tian has great strength, so bringing along Biji is just to be on the safe side, right? Xia Yi asked curiously. That's right. Ziji nodded. This time, these fierce beasts were really scared by Xia Yi and dared not give Guyu a chance to be alone anymore. If the ancient moon really falls into the human world, they will have nowhere to cry. Who are the guardians of the 10,000 Demon King and the Red King? Xia Yi asked curiously. As far as he knew, both the 10,000 Demon King and the Red King had higher cultivation than Ziji. That is to say, Guyu sent a ferocious beast with the weakest cultivation to protect herself. Xia Yi doesn't really care, but when he asks this question, it's difficult for Xiji to think too much. You look down on me, Xiji glared fiercely at Xia Yi. No. Xia Yi quickly explained, of course, whether she believed it or not was Ziji's own business. If you're amazing enough to enter the inner courtyard of Shrek College, maybe you'll meet her. Xiji shook her head, not angry, and didn't tell Xia Yi her identity. She just asked, "Are you ready?" "Ready." Xia Yi nodded forcefully. Xiji didn't say anything, but he could also guess that he needed two fierce beasts to protect him, and his status couldn't be low. And when Xiji said this, the respect in her eyes was no less than when she mentioned Shiguyu, it was just a hint of helplessness in her respect. Is her status on par with Guyu? Xia Yi was startled by her own idea. Guyu is the master of soul beasts, and who can match her status in the heart of the fierce beasts in the Star Forest? Don't think too much, I'm about to start. Xiji shook her head and reached out a jade hand to press on Xia Yi's shoulder. The dark purple energy erupted, enveloping her and Xia Yi, and then a dark purple vortex appeared on her chest. This is the legendary soul core. Xia Yi stared at the purple vortex and could feel how terrifying the power contained within it. Xia Yi had no doubt that the power in this vortex could tear him into pieces with just a slight overflow. That's right, this is the soul core. Among us, I have the weakest cultivation and need to rely on the soul core to ensure your safety. Xiji nodded and continued, although it was the Lord of the Plane who forced you to transform, since you have already transformed, you have the speed of human cultivation. In no time, you can also condense your own soul core. Xiji did not tell Xia Yi that his martial soul was not good, after all, Xia Yi had just transformed, and if he was hit, he might collapse. As soon as Xia Yi nodded, he felt a huge spatial pressure coming from all directions. Fortunately, under the protection of the purple concubine's soul core, he only felt a slight tightness in his chest and was not harmed. Xiji was very fast, and in just an instant, the spatial pressure had disappeared without a trace. It was only then that Xia Yi realized that she had appeared outside the Star Forest. Xiji did not directly take Xia Yi to Donghai City, but instead landed not far from the Star Forest. Together with Xia Yi, we looked out at the huge cage that imprisoned the entire Star Forest. At noon, the scorching sun shone down, piercing the eyes. The brilliant sunshine made Xia Yi feel an unprecedented sense of comfort, and she couldn't help but close her eyes greedily feeling this pleasure. This was a comfort he had never felt before in the Star Forest, which made him unable to help but indulge in it. Xiji did not disturb Xia Yi. Seeing Xia Yi's behavior made her eyes a bit moist. If it weren't for the incompetence of these fierce beasts, how could a large number of small soul beasts like Xia Yi have never felt the true sunshine from birth to now? Xia Yi is quite lucky, at least now he has truly felt the breath of sunlight. In the Star Forest, there are also a large number of soul beasts, from birth to death, who can only look up at the sun in the sky through the thin film above their heads. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. 3 minutes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. 3 minutes after leaving the Star Forest, Xiji did not fly directly to Donghai City with Xia Yi. Instead, she took out a small soul guide car from the storage soul guide and drove Xia Yi to Donghai City. If you fly at high altitude, you may not be able to bear it, and if you fly at low altitude, it is easy to be caught by human radar, which can cause some trouble, explained Xiji. Along the way, Xia Yi looked at the towering buildings on both sides of the road and couldn't help but exclaim, no wonder humans were able to encircle the entire Star Forest. Human development has indeed left the Starry Forest far behind. Xiji drove not only fast but also very steadily, but it took a whole day and night to reach Donghai City from outside the Star Forest. Why do you have to run so far? Xia Yi asked inexplicably. Not long after leaving the Star Forest, Xiji pointed to a huge city and introduced it to him, which was Shrek City. Although Shrek College is an advanced Soul Master college and does not accept Soul Masters of Xia Yi's age group, there are also many middle and lower level Soul Master colleges in Shrek City, and the college level is much higher than that of Donghai College. Xia Yi couldn't figure out why he wanted to sacrifice his proximity for distance and his roots for the end. This is what the Lord means, Ziji said in a deep voice. Why don't you ask? Xia Yi asked curiously. The Lord has his own profound meaning when it comes to doing things. Moreover, the Lord's transformation and strength are in a downturn. At this time, what we need to do is to maintain her status, not question her, Ziji said in a deep voice. You're really loyal. Xia Yi pouted and then looked at the steering wheel in Ziji's hand, asking, can you let me give it a try? If you want to learn, I can teach you in the future, but you need to find a spacious place. Ziji gave Xia Yi a big white eye, and she didn't want Xia Yi to ruin her car. Give it a try, I've watched it all the way, I remember all your movements. Xia Yi looked at Ziji with a pitiful expression. Put away your disgusting expression. Zidjidon felt a layer of goosebumps all over his body. Unable to resist Xia Yi, he could only helplessly say, wait for me to stop by the roadside, but it was agreed beforehand that the speed should not be too fast. Originally, Ziji wanted Xia Yi to give up after trying, but soon she was dumbfounded. Xia Yi just gave it a little try and quickly mastered the technique, leading her straight onto the highway. Even I learned it 3 days ago, right? Ziji was shocked in her heart. Emperor Tian taught her hand-to-hand for 3 days before she learned how to drive soul-guided cars. And Xia Yi just watched all the way and learned without even needing to teach. For new things, Xia Yi showed great enthusiasm, and even after arriving at Donghai City, he still led Ziji around the city expressway. Over and over again, the helpless Ziji could only serve as a coolie, constantly delivering soul power to the soul-guiding car. With such a ferocious beast nearby, even if you run for 5 days and nights, you don't have to worry about energy depletion. It was not until Ziji received a communication from Guyu regarding the Soul Guide that Xia Yi had to drive the Soul Guide car to Donghai Academy. Quickly, Xia Yi followed the navigation and drove to the entrance of Donghai Academy. At this moment, Guyu was already waiting at the door. After she went to the transmission tower, she flew over in a mecha belonging to a prominent figure in the tower, and her speed was countless times faster than Ziji's Soul Guide car. If it weren't for wasting some time inside the spirit transmission tower, Xia Yi wouldn't have had the opportunity to take Ziji around. Seeing that Xia Yi was driving, Guyu's eyebrows furrowed again and she couldn't help but look up at Ziji, wondering how Xia Yi would be driving. Ziji spread out her hand and made a helpless expression. Originally, after entering the city with many people, she planned to let Xia Yi drive in her place, but Xia Yi refused to let her go. Although it shocked Xia Yi's learning ability, Guyu did not show any signs. Forget it, come with me. I'll take you to find the dance teacher. Coincidentally, I heard that there is another transfer student in Class 0 besides you. Perhaps you can join Class 0 together. Donghai College is not large, but the 0 class students occupy a complete teaching area. They not only have independent training grounds, but also independent dormitories, and even in the cafeteria, they have privileges. The college has equipped them with specialized chefs to ensure that every meal can receive balanced nutrition. When Xia Yi and Guyu arrived, everyone else in Class 0 had already arrived. Seeing Xia Yi and Guyu walking side by side, a hostile gaze immediately attacked Xia Yi. Xia Yi looked up with her gaze, and what caught her eye were a pair of beautiful big eyes and a handsome face. This is what you call Tang Wulin. Her skin is pretty good, but she's still a bit inferior to me, Xia Yi said narcissistically, and then shook her long hair that was scattered over her shoulders in a coquettish manner. Of course, he also has the capital to say this, and everyone says that Fox transformation is definitely unparalleled, and he is no exception. Compared to the pure and attractive appearance of an ordinary fox, He also has a thick and solid temperament that can attract more attention from the surroundings. Stop talking. Guyu glared at Xia Yi in anger and turned to look at Wu Changkong. Teacher, this is Xia Yi that I told you before. Got it, could you introduce yourself? Wu Changkong glanced at Xia Yi and Su Xiaoyan beside him, with a frosty face from beginning to end. In fact, he had already sensed Xia Yi's cultivation, and asking Xia Yi to introduce himself was just to better reject her. Su Xiaoyan spoke first and looked a bit shy as she faced Wu Changkong. She said, "Hello everyone, my name is Su Xiaoyan. I am 10 years old and have a martial soul star will ice wand with a 17th level soul power." Wu Changkong nodded and spoke coldly, "In the next month, you need to prove your strength, and at the same time, prove that you are suitable for the 0 class group. After a month, you will decide to stay." "Yes." Su Xiaoyan obediently agreed. "It's your turn." Wu Changkong turned to look at Xia Yi. Xia Yi imitated Su Xiaoyan's appearance and said, "My name is Xia Yi, I am 10 years old this year. My martial soul is a fox, and my soul power is level 10. You can leave now," Wu Changkong said lightly, very straightforward, without a word of nonsense. "Are you joking? I just want to join the 0 class after reaching level 10, isn't that just a dream?" Even Su Xiaoyan was reluctantly agreed to by the teaching director and dean of Donghai College, and Xia Yi was not as good as Su Xiaoyan. If Xia Yi were to enter class 0, the brand of class 0 would be ruined in the future. "You go back first, I'll take you to another class tomorrow to try it out." Guyu took a deep breath, not too disappointed, because she knew it would be such a result long ago. She didn't ask Wu Changkong either. She knew about Wu Changkong, but asking was useless. Besides, in her capacity, she wouldn't pull down her face and beg for help. Xia Yi didn't leave, but instead looked at Wu Changkong and asked calmly, "Why are you both a transfer student?" "She has a chance, but I don't." After speaking, Xia Yi pointed to Su Xiaoyan. Wu Changkong didn't pay attention to Xia Yi, but looked at Tang Wulin and said, "Tang Wulin is out." "Yes." Tang Wulin took a step forward. Until then, Wu Changkong looked at Xia Yi and said coldly, "This is Tang Wulin. He has the lowest soul power in class 0, even lower than Su Xiaoyan's. Of course, he is higher than you. If you can hold his hand for 3 minutes, I will agree to let you join class 0. 3 minutes, no problem, I hope you keep your word," Xia Yi nodded. "I always keep my word," Wu Changkong said coldly, then turned to look at Tang Wulin again and said, "Give you 3 minutes to defeat him. If you can't do it, double all the training this semester. Is there any problem?" "No problem," Tang Wulin responded with a single response. He had never lost any battles between soul masters of the same level, let alone Xia Yi, whose cultivation was lower than him. Moreover, Xia Yi's martial soul is not outstanding. "Are you ready?" With Tang Wulin's affirmation, Wu Changkong looked at the two of them and asked. "Ready." Xia Yi and Tang Wulin nodded in agreement. However, just as Wu Changkong was about to shout the beginning, Dou suddenly took a step forward and quickly ran to Tang Wulin's side, whispering, "Be careful, he's not weaker than you." "Got it." Tang Wulin's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise, realizing that someone could compete with him in strength, something he had never thought of before. Although he also felt a bit incredulous, he knew that Guyu would not deceive him and nodded forcefully. Seeing Guyu's movements, Xia Yi was immediately speechless. Although Guyu's voice was very low and could not be heard by outsiders, he could probably guess what Guyu had said to Tang Wulin. He originally intended to use his power advantage to catch Tang Wulin off guard, but now everything is in vain. "I want to ask, are there any restrictions?" Xia Yi helplessly turned his head to look at Wu Changkong. If the advantage of his power could not be fully exerted, he had to find another way. "There's no limit, just don't give up." Wu Changkong responded coldly, but his gaze was always on Tang Wulin, clearly speaking to him. Understood. Tang Wulin's eyes flashed with a bright light. He was already dark inside, so he didn't understand what Wu Changkong meant. He was already unhappy with Xia Yi, how could he let go of such a good opportunity? No wonder Wu Changkong gave him 3 minutes. Start. Wu Changkong no longer gave Xia Yi a chance to speak, and decisively shouted to start. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. 3 Tricks to Win. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 3 Tricks to Win in Class 0. Besides the low-key Guyu, there is no doubt that Tang Wulin is the strongest. Neither Wu Changkong nor Tang Wulin, nor Guyu, believed that Xia Yi could hold on for a minute in Tang Wulin's hands. Wu Changkong gave 3 minutes, clearly to give Tang Wulin a chance to clean up Xia Yi well. Obviously, Wu Changkong was also unhappy with Xia Yi. With the sound of Wu Changkong, a hint of purple flashed in Tang Wulin's eyes. With one step of his left foot, his right fist exploded, and a layer of golden scales appeared on top of his right fist, hitting Xia Yi with a punch. Faced with Tang Wulin's attack, Xia Yi remained motionless, not even releasing his martial soul. His appearance couldn't help but amaze Tang Wulin and Wu Changkong. Did Xia Yi's combat awareness drop to this point? Only Guyu frowned. She was the one who knew Xia Yi's combat consciousness the most. She had been terrifying for many years and couldn't even react. As expected, when Tang Wulin's fist approached Xia Yi suddenly tilted his head. Tang Wulin came from the Dance Chong Kong sect of Shrek Academy, and with his cultivation far exceeding that of Xia Yi, as well as Tang Clan's unique skills, Xia Yi naturally couldn't have dodged his attack with just one bow. Xia Yi never thought about hiding. He just turned his head to look at Guyu from Tang Wulin's shoulder. With a curious expression on his face, he asked, "What are you doing again?" Tang Wulin was stunned again, speechless in her heart. "Big brother, we are in battle. You don't release your martial soul, don't dodge, don't take action, but you care about Guyu here. What are you doing?" With Xia Yi like this, Tang Wulin really didn't know what to do for a moment. He couldn't just punch him. He instinctively followed Xia Yi and turned his head to look at Guyu. "I want to see what Guyu is doing, so that Xia Yi can still care about her at this time. Be careful." Guyu didn't know exactly what Xia Yi was going to do, but when she saw Tang Wulin turn around, she immediately understood and loudly reminded her. Unfortunately, it was already too late. At the moment Tang Wulin turned around, Xia Yi decisively took action, lifting her legs and locking her throat. The intense pain made Tang Wulin instinctively turn around, but 2 fingers greeted his beautiful big eyes. Ah! The screams of killing pigs echoed throughout the entire East Sea Academy in an instant, and Tang Wulin felt for the first time 100 times more pain than breaking through the seal of the Golden Dragon King. "You!" Wu Changkong gave Xia Yi a fierce look with murderous eyes, then turned around and ran towards the school clinic, holding Tang Wulin who was still screaming. Even if he wants to trouble Xia Yi, he still needs to first take Tang Wulin to the school clinic to see if there are any problems. The cold gaze made Xia Yi feel uneasy and turned to look at Guyu. But Guyu and Xie Chan were worried about Tang Wulin and ignored Xia Yi. They followed Wu Changkong and rushed towards the direction of the school clinic. Only Su Xiaoyan, who had just joined Class 0, was a bit lost in place. "Have I passed the assessment like this?" Xia Yi looked at Su Xiaoyan and tried to squeeze his handsome face, trying to show a relatively friendly smile as much as possible. I don't know." Looking at Xia Yi with a kind smile, Su Xiaoyan was so scared that he couldn't speak fluently. He retreated several meters before suddenly turning around and chasing Guyu and the others. "Am I so scary?" Xia Yi touched her face. It shouldn't be, she was clearly very kind. "Shall we all leave?" After Su Xiaoyan's figure also disappeared, Xia Yi's eyes became cold and gloomy. "Ah." He sighed lightly, not knowing what to do alone, so he turned around and left Donghai College. To Xia Yi's surprise, Ziji was still waiting for him at the entrance of Donghai Academy. Seeing Xia Yi walking out with a gloomy expression on her face, Ziji quickly comforted and said, "It's okay, you just had a short transformation time. If you were only 6 years old when you transformed, at this age, besides the master, you would definitely have few opponents. Have you been waiting here all this time?" Xia Yi jumped into the car and asked curiously while driving. "You haven't officially enrolled yet, and there are no dormitories at Donghai College. The master asked me to take you to find a hotel to make do with it first, and then find a way to join other classes tomorrow." Ziji explained that Guyu was worried that Xia Yi had just arrived in Donghai City and was unfamiliar with his hometown, so she had to wait at the entrance of Donghai College. She was certain that Xia Yi would be kicked out of Class 0 by Wu Changkong. "So you knew early on that I couldn't join the 0 class?" Xia Yi asked in a deep voice. "Don't think too much, we're not looking down on you, but your transformation time is too short," explained Ziji. Xia Yi didn't express anything and asked lightly, "Since I know I can't join Class 0, why do you still want me to meet the teacher of Class 0? "Always give it a try, what if it's successful," said Ziji. Xia Yi nodded and then asked, "How much do you know about Class 0 and Tang Wulin?" "Knowing that he is extraordinary, I don't know anything else. The Lord doesn't want us to monitor her friends too much," Ziji sighed. Not only Guyu, but even Nar didn't let them pay too much attention to Tang Wulin. "The assessment given to me by Class 0 just now was for me to persist in Tang Wulin's hands for 3 minutes, Xia Yi said casually. Looking at Xia Yi's cold expression, Ziji thought that Xia Yi's mood was not good because she couldn't hold on for 3 minutes. She quickly comforted him, but said, "You don't have to be discouraged. Although your soul power is too low now, no matter what, you are born with full soul power talent, and there will always be a day to defeat him. If I kill Tang Wulin, will your lord seek revenge on me for him?" Xia Yi turned his head to look at Ziji and asked seriously. "What nonsense are you talking about? No matter how good the relationship between Tang Wulin and the master is, they are just classmates, and you are a citizen of the Star Forest. How could the master take revenge on you for him?" Ziji shook her head, thinking that Xia Yi had lost to Tang Wulin before daydreaming. "Actually, I defeated Tang Wulin just now," Xia Yi said. "Did you win?" Ziji was stunned for a moment, clearly skeptical, and asked, "How did you win? Since you won, why did you come out so quickly?" "3 moves won the game." Xia Yi shrugged and changed the tone of her voice, saying coldly, "It's just that before the game even started, your boss revealed my cards to Tang Wulin. The battle ended, and because I injured Tang Wulin, her eyes were very cold, with a murderous intent." Xia Yi thought for a moment and added, "Although I didn't see it, I can feel it." Ziji took a deep breath and said, "Are you saying that you used 3 moves to subdue Tang Wulin when the Lord betrayed you? Winning Tang Wulin is not uncommon, and being betrayed is not important. What's important is that your master is clearly different from others in treating Tang Wulin. I just want to remind you not to accidentally turn your master into someone else's little wife." Xia Yi took a deep breath and fell into a deep voice. "You've been wandering around for so long, just to remind me of this matter." Ziji was stunned and said, "I thought you were angry because you were betrayed by the Lord." "Angry?" Xia Yi pouted and said, "Being betrayed by a companion makes me angry. But for your master, I have never believed her. Even if she stabs me in the back with a knife, I am too lazy to be angry with her. Of course, not being angry doesn't mean I won't seek revenge from her." Xia Yi glanced at Biji and then said, "She is the co-owner of Soul Beasts. I am a part of Soul Beasts. If she really focuses on serving Soul Beasts, I can obey her orders. But if she is not worthy of her position and only betrays her subordinates, then I won't be loyal to her. Do you know what you're talking about?" Ziji asked in a deep voice as she stared at Xia Yi, her strong breath overwhelming her. I know. Xia Yi shrugged and didn't feel intimidated by Ziji's anger. He still spoke calmly, I told you these things because you ferocious beasts really want to save the Star Dou Forest. Of course, I don't want your foolish loyalty to harm you, and also harm the Star Dou Forest. Do you think I would deny my lifelong faith just because of a few words from you? Ziji asked coldly. Xia Yi nodded and pondered for a moment before saying, in that case, how about we conduct an experiment? What experiment? Ziji asked. Since Biji and Emperor Tian are secretly protecting Guyu, should they also be in Donghai City now? Xia Yi asked. Here. Ziji nodded. Xia Yi also nodded and said in a deep voice, you should immediately notify Biji and let her pretend to be injured. If she really harms herself, I will tell you, my lord. Biji has been attacked by human powerhouses and has been severely injured. We cannot take action easily now, otherwise it may cause incalculable consequences. I will let you carefully see who your lord will choose between Biji and Tang Wulin. What does that mean? Ziji asked. Xia Yi smiled and said, during the assessment just now, Tang Wulin was injured a bit severely by me. In a small city like Donghai City, no one is likely to be able to save him. Your master is likely to immediately call the soul guide to communicate and ask Biji to save him. Ziji didn't pay any attention to Xia Yi anymore. Instead, she took out the communication from Soul Guide and dialed the Emperor Tian's number, saying, I have something I need you to decide. Exploring the spirit beast co-master, such a disrespectful matter, Ziji still doesn't have the courage to do it, and can only let Emperor Tian decide. When Ziji put down the Soul Guide communication, Xia Yi showed another seemingly malicious smile and continued, if your master really chooses Tang Wulin, do you need me to help you train her? End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Permanent loss of certain functions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Permanent loss of certain functions. In the medical room of Donghai College, Tang Wulin had already passed out in pain. Wu Changkong and a few people from Class 0 were anxiously waiting outside. Their faces were gloomy and terrifying, because Xia Yi was brought by Guyu, making their gaze even slightly hostile towards Guyu. Amidst the anxious gazes of several people, the doctor finally walked out of the ward. What's up, doctor? Is Wu Lin okay? Wu Changkong asked for the first time. There's not much life-threatening danger, you can take care of it for a while and be discharged from the hospital. It's evident that the person who did it has shown mercy and did not harm his life, but there may be some sequelae. The doctor took off his mask, and although Tang Wulin was fine, his face was not very good looking. After effects, what after effects? Wu Changkong asked in a deep voice. The doctor took a deep breath and asked, can you tell me first who injured him like this? What is the relationship between this and the sequelae? Guyu interjected on the side. The person who started it was obviously an experienced hand. Although the student's eyes and throat were severely injured, there were no major problems. After being hospitalized for some time, they were fine, but their lower body had major problems that could not be cured. Even if they recovered, they were likely to permanently lose some functions. The doctor said in a deep voice, looking back at Tang Wulin on the hospital bed, sighing, and then said, I'm curious about who your classmate has offended, and also curious about who would have caused such a heavy blow to a child. Permanently losing certain functions. What does that mean? Guyu's face turned pale with a swoop. The doctor shook his head but didn't explain. This kind of thing, even a teenager, couldn't explain it clearly. As for Wu Changkong, he should have understood it without explanation. Doctor, there's really nothing I can do. Wu Changkong's seemingly permanently cold face became even colder, and his fists couldn't help but clench. My abilities are limited, the doctor shook his head helplessly, and he had already done his best. Just as Wu Changkong was about to speak again, a sudden scream came from him. What kind of doctor are you with limited abilities? You can't even cure a small injury. Aren't you harmful? Gu Yu's emotions were clearly a bit excited. Perhaps Xie Chan and Su Xiaoyan didn't know what the doctor meant by permanently losing certain functions, but she was not a 10-year-old girl and was very clear about what the doctor meant. What did you say? Gu Yu's words made the doctor's face suddenly look ugly. If it weren't for him, Tang Wulin's eyes and throat would also have left sequelae. He kindly saved Tang Wulin, but was criticized by the authorities for being incompetent. Even if he had a good temper, he would still be angry. I'm sorry, doctor. These children have a good relationship, and Gu Yu has been speaking recklessly because she's worried about Tang Wulin. Please don't get along with him and see if you can find another way to save Tang Wulin. After all, he's just a child, and as long as he can save this child, I'm willing to bear any price. Wu Changkong quickly apologized. Although he has always been proud and charming, it's about Tang Wulin's lifelong happiness, and he had to put down his figure to apologize to the doctor on behalf of Gu Yu. He has always regarded Tang Wulin as his own, and if anything really happened to Tang Wulin, he would have no chance to regret it. My ability is limited and I can't save it. The doctor snorted coldly, glanced at Gu Yu coldly, and then turned his head to look at Tang Wulin on the hospital bed. He still couldn't bear it and said in a deep voice, in his situation, if you can hire a Seoul Douluo powerhouse from the treatment department, perhaps there is still a chance. Of course, it would be even better if you can find a treatment department titled Douluo. After the doctor finished speaking, he shook his head helplessly. Although there were many Seoul Douluo and titled Douluo, there were also those in the treatment department. But how could a person with that identity possibly stay in a small city like Donghai City? Even if they happen to be in Donghai City, how could such a strong person be recruited by Donghai Academy? Title Douluo. Gu Yu's eyes lit up, and her previous anger was swept away. She didn't have the title Douluo in the healing department, but there was a ferocious beast comparable to the extreme Douluo. Why, you know the title Douluo from the treatment department. Wu Changkong furrowed his brows as he was about to take Tang Wulin to Shrek Academy when he saw Gu Yu's relaxed expression. I know there is a healing title Douluo from the Chuanling Tower who happened to be patrolling Donghai City, Gu Yu said quickly. There was nothing wrong with her words. BG did indeed work for the Chuanling Tower, but later it deteriorated and she was forced to leave. Those who are strong at the Spirit Pagoda, will he lend a helping hand? Wu Changkong frowned and was given the title of Douluo. He was still the one from the Spirit Pagoda, how could he possibly come to help a child he had never met before? Don't worry, she will definitely do it, Gu Yu explained with a firm expression on her face. She and my teacher at the Spirit Pagoda are very good friends. What else are you talking about? Hurry up and call him over, Xia Chen said on the side. Okay, I'll invite her over now, Gu Yu nodded. Ding. Gu Yu had just taken out the Soul Guidance communication, but before she could dial it, the Soul Guidance communication rang, and it happened to be Emperor Tian. Gu Yu, who was filled with joy, quickly ran to the side. However, as soon as she had connected to the Soul Guide communication, before she could speak, the voice of Emperor Tian came out, Lord, we have been attacked by a powerful spirit tower. BG has suffered unprecedented serious injuries and cannot use soul power for a short period of time, otherwise there may be a danger to her life. What's going on? Are you okay? Gu Yu asked in a deep voice. Don't worry, Lord. We are safe now. I have no other intention of communicating with Soul Guide, just to tell Lord that during the period when BG is injured, please make sure to protect yourself, said Emperor Tian in a deep voice. You wait for me, I'll go find you right away. Gu Yu had just put down her Soul Guide communication when Wu Changkong brought Xie Chan and Su Xiaoyan to her face. Looking at her gloomy expression, Wu Changkong quickly asked, How are you? That title Douluo has some unexpected matters, but don't worry, I will definitely invite her over. After Guyu finished speaking, she ignored Wu Changkong and Xia encounter and turned to run towards the entrance of Donghai Academy. Guyu is studying at Donghai College. In order to protect her, Emperor Tian decided to buy a small courtyard in Donghai City as a precautionary measure. As soon as Guyu entered the courtyard, she saw Xia Yi leisurely lying on a rocking chair. Guyu ignored Xia Yi and rushed into the room, only to see Bai Ji lying in bed with a terrifyingly pale face and no trace of blood. Master. Upon seeing Guyu appear, Bai quickly sat up from the bed. However, it seemed that she was really injured, and she only moved a little. Her long emerald green hair was constantly shifting between feathers and hair, as if she couldn't even maintain her human form. You don't need to be polite like this now. Guyu quickly helped Bai lie down again, then looked at Emperor Tian beside her and asked coldly, "What's going on here? Why did Bai get hurt like this?" "Master, don't worry, Bai is fine now. She just needs to rest for a while," Emperor Tian quickly spoke up. "What's going on with you?" Guyu's voice was clearly filled with anger. "In order to protect you, Bai and I followed you too closely. We were discovered by the powerful members of the Spirit Pagoda and surrounded by multiple four-character battle armors." Emperor Tian had already thought of his words. Guyu took a deep breath and didn't get angry. She just asked in a deep voice, "Can't Bai really use soul power anymore?" When Guyu asked this question, several fierce beasts all lowered their heads in agreement. Previously, they didn't believe what Xia Yi said, but now they have to believe it. Bai is so badly injured that Guyu actually wants her to save Tang Wulin. Emperor Tian took a deep breath and gritted his teeth, saying, "We work together to barely stabilize Bai's injuries. If we forcefully use our soul power, we may be in danger of our lives." End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Exploration and Reminder. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator.